When it was first confirmed that the Mavs and Clippers would be facing in round 1, what did you think would be the X factor? Maybe the pending return of Kawhi, Harden's ability to carry a bigger offensive load, or Westbrook's energy off the bench? On the Mavs side, maybe the brilliance of Kyrie and Luka, or role players knocking down shots? Well, all of these things have been incredibly important through 2 games. But what if I told you that the most important thing so far has actually been the defense of Luka Doncic? Obviously, the Mavs opened game 1 with Luka matched up against one of LA's lesser offensive options. Whether that's Terrence Mann or Amir Coffey, the idea is to not only keep him away from the ball, but to also help him conserve energy for offense. The thing is, LA would start almost all of their possessions with a super high ball screen from Luka's man to get him switched onto Harden, and from there they'd get into their attack. The big problem here is Luka's lateral quickness. He just simply isn't quick enough to keep the ball in front of him consistently, and that inability to prevent dribble penetration led to quite a few easy points. In an effort to protect himself from these blow-bys, you'll often see Luka leave a little cushion of space instead of pressuring the ball, which of course leaves James with a pull-up 3. Dallas was fully expecting this, so they implemented a unique strategy. Instead of trying to stop James in isolation, Luka angles his body to shade the ball towards the baseline where a big man is loading up early to take away the rim. Only one issue, this pre-rotation forces the weak side corner to drop to the big, essentially handing the Clippers an automatic advantage. From there they have to rotate, and George ends up with a quality 3. Here's an example where George is the one handling. Luka again shades the ball baseline where Lively's waiting, and all it takes is a skip pass to the opposite corner to force a long closeout, which Powell easily beats on his way to a floater. It isn't just the corner pass that the defense has to worry about in these spots. On this one, Kyrie's the one dropping from the weak side, and that's obviously a huge mismatch for Zubac to attack, so he seals deep position and scores through contact for a chance at 3. You can point to any number of problems from this first half, like the 8-point second quarter for example, but allowing the Clippers to play with a numbers advantage on possession after possession isn't going to lead to great results, at one point nearly trailing by as many as 30. In the second half, those same problems continue to show up. Luka tries to up the pressure and Harden has no trouble getting around him, then the rest of the defense has to collapse, which results in an open corner 3. It's the same thing against George. With a simple hesitation and cross, he's left in the dust, and I think the bigger issue is that he just stands there and watches afterwards. No effort or sense of urgency to get back in the play. I don't want to make it sound like he didn't have a single good defensive possession all night though. On some of these switches, he did hold up, and he made some nice reads away from the ball. Then on a play like this where they go back to the strategy of shading Harden towards the big man, it works in the way it's supposed to because Westbrook isn't a big threat from outside. I also like this play from the third quarter where instead of a switch, Luka positions himself to not give up a driving lane while Exum recovers, and they concede a 4-on-3, but from there do a good job of rotating to mitigate the advantage. Still, it was an obvious case of too little too late after that porous start, and they end up losing, but they definitely found some things to carry into game 2 with them. Once again, he's going to start the night matched up with the weakest perimeter option, in this case Terrence Mann, for the same reasons I earlier mentioned. And he can more than hold his own in the rare event that Mann does try to take him one-on-one. Sliding his feet, absorbing contact, getting a hand up, that's great defense. I was also really impressed with his activity as a roamer. Because Mann's typically spotting up, that puts Luka in a position to make reads, and here he actually goes vertical to save points at the rim. A few minutes later is where we saw something incredibly interesting though. They actually put Luka at the point of attack as Harden's primary matchup. Some sort of reverse psychology in the sense that when a screen comes, now he's switching away from the ball, and you'll notice he does a good job of communicating so that the rest of the defense is on the same page. Of course, with the matchup he wants, Harden's going to start to isolate even more than he already was. And 2 things are important here. 1, the offense is completely stagnant. 2, Luka's holding his own way better than he was in that first game. Without Harden on the floor to start the second, he was back to playing off ball, which meant back to roaming. This time it's against Westbrook, and notice the weak closeout as he's willing to concede that three. At one point, the Mavs even threw out a 2-3 zone with Luka in the weak side corner so that they could shut off the middle of the floor and force an attacker like Kawhi into making tough decisions. And I won't lie, during this stretch, it seemed like the Clippers really let Luka off the hook. They completely went away from hunting him in switches and ran their more vanilla offense, which didn't exactly lead to the best shots. Whenever Luka did match up with Harden, there was a stark difference in the team's approach. Remember, in Game 1, he was shading the ball towards early help? Well, that early help is still there, only instead of intentionally giving up the advantage, they're trusting Luka to defend one-on-one, which he did time and time again. Here's an example from late in the third. Powell's gonna attack him in early offense, and the big man is ready and waiting in the middle, but Luka's still sliding his feet and using his body to play him straight up. In the fourth, this would be put to the ultimate test, because LA's master game plan was simple. Get the switch and isolate. Luka's bringing pressure, he's moving his feet, using his length to make a play on the ball. This is great stuff. My favorite possession of the night came with 6 minutes to go. Like I said, you still have some early help, both at the nail and at the block, and all Luka has to do is make things difficult. He holds his ground in the mid-post, uses his size and length to make himself tall, and completely smothers a mid-range jumper. On the very next possession, it's George who's going to try him, and this time the Mavs actually come with a double, intentionally giving up that 4-on-3 advantage, and Russ ends up with a wide open three that he knocks down. What I'm focused on is Luka's reaction though. He's mad that they helped. So a possession later, when he again finds himself isolated against George, they heed his message. Leave him in single coverage and live with the results. He continues to get it done in these situations and is loving every second of it. Look, defensive numbers aren't everything, so take these with a grain of salt. In Game 1 of the series, the Clippers had a 118.5 offensive rating, and Luka defended a total of 15 shots. In Game 2, they trusted him more, defending a total of 24 shots or 9 extra possessions, and the Clippers had an offensive rating of just 101.1. Obviously, there are other factors going into this, like how much worse they shot from 3, Kawhi looking a little rusty in his return from injury, but I think it's pretty clear that Luka's improved activity, effort, and the Mavs as a whole slightly tweaking their scheme made a pretty big difference. Still, it was a one-possession game with 2 minutes to go, which required some closing on offense. Luka gets into the defense and finds Kleba wide open for a 3 to push the lead to 6, and next time down, he's working against Harden one-on-one with the clock running down, and steps back for a tough 3 of his own, which ultimately ends up being the dagger. We're all tied up in the series. The Mavs did their job of stealing home court advantage, and I can't wait to see what adjustments take place in Game 3. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of this series. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.